Hi everyone, Liz Miller, VP and Principal Analyst, Constellation Research, and I am here with none other than one of my favorite people to talk to because we get into crazy conversations. Hi PQ.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing really well. You really need more to-dos. Like, you haven't been busy over the last year. I feel like you've really had a lazy time of it.
Yeah, well, to
Can
be
we
honest,
solve that?
we've been doing a lot for sure, but
Huge.
But I've had a lot of help. The team has been executing. Colleen Aubrey came over and has just been. I think we talked about that about a year ago.
Yeah.
Telling you about how that was going, and I think now you're starting to see some of the results of her really building an incredible team to help deliver so much more under this Connect umbrella. This family has grown so much. Yeah.
I think it's so fantastic. So I want to actually take us back a little bit. Because yes, Connect, I think for at least folks who follow me, for like the 5 of you out there, you know that I've been talking about Connect as a great engagement backbone where the primary use case has been in the contact center. For me though, I've always seen it as that, as a communications and an engagement backbone. That I could actually put into a non-traditional engagement center. I could install it in operations. I could put it in marketing.
Yep.
I could really put it in any functional area because what it was doing was taking the customer first and then almost reverse engineering what their communications and what their engagement is. But now it seems like you have opened the floodgates of that premise of here's the foundation. And it's now in so many different use cases. Can you walk us through kind of the general that big picture overview on what has happened with Connect?
Yeah, I'd love to. There's a couple different vectors that are interesting to talk about here, and since we always get into these interesting conversations, I'll take some liberty to go deep into some different areas. The first one I'll start with is we've always seen the challenge as solving a real world problem, and we always felt AI would be really important to that. But we have this benefit of being incredibly bullish on agentic AI, but also believing that we should use every tool the way it should be to think about solving a problem. And so try not to be a hammer looking for every nail, but instead, what could we do differently? So in the last 6 months, we've released fully agentic capabilities in Connect. But we've never forgotten the fact that human beings are so important to this process, and sometimes they're the preferred choice. And then we said in the middle of this thing, agentic is amazing at certain things. Like, I love what it can do in understanding a conversation, dissecting complex things, and then asking follow-up questions to get to the bottom of stuff, getting through things like taking notes, things that people hate doing and aren't very good at. At the same time,
call notes. Oh God.
At the same time, human beings really could use some help doing a lot of those things. And focusing on the people at hand. And humans are at the center of so many of these things, and they need help in a lot of different ways. And so when I think about this, in the contact center, the obvious people to help are agents, because there's so many of them, there's always a high value in helping them.
Yeah.
And we love doing that. We love getting rid of all the note-taking. We love getting rid of all the wrap-up codes, all the crazy, boring things people used to worry about. But what's more interesting is then to get into an idea of, if you move out of the idea of just trying to get into average handle times and abandonment rates, but instead into problem solving and success metrics.
Yes.
Then we start thinking about, how would I think about solving this problem the optimal way? And I'm not going to worry about deflection. Deflection's dead. I'm going to think about getting people into an engagement mode. If you're deflecting people, you're deflecting them right to your computer. And believe
100%.
Between them and someone like a ChatGPT that wants to solve every problem, how long is it before your business is just option A, option B, option C in a list of things, and you've lost all ability to engage with your customer because you saved some money deflecting them? So that was the start of my transformational model on Connect with agentic AI. Was we can bring agentic AI also not just for the agents, the human beings, not just for the end customers, but what are the managers doing? They're sitting there taking stuff around, clicking on things and wasting so much time. Why would I not be telling them what's going on in their contact center and letting them interact? Now, they still want to see great visuals. Like, I think human beings are, by their natures, we have 2 eyes and we're pretty good at using them most of the time. And so that's a wicked opportunity to say, we can change the way people interact with this. Same thing from configuring things as we move out of the contact center world into the back office world. And so we've got some amazing technology now where people say, this is what I want to do. This is the thing I want to achieve in my back office. There may not be any communications. There can be. Connect's pretty good at communicating, but there may not be any communications. Instead, what I want to do is achieve this goal, track this process, solve the problem, and then improve it. And this improvement part is so important.
You know what's so funny is because when I looked at all of the announcements, thank you to the AWS team for giving us the pre-brief. So I got to kind of ingest everything before today's fire hose. But the thing that struck me was that what always impressed me with Connect was that it is always been looking at the actual problem that the person is trying to solve, not the problem that the business perceives, right? So if we think about the business perceiving a problem in the contact center, it's been people. Like people have been the problem. People talk too long. People take too long to answer a question. People take too long to write up the summary. So all of the solutions out there, and a lot of them out there have been, when you say hammer and a nail, the hammer has been pointed at the people, right? Because if I can get those people to stop talking, I can contain and deflect, and I can, because it's both sides that have been the problem. Interestingly, in supply chain, in healthcare, in hiring, people are also the problem there. In traditional tools and technologies.
If you're thinking about in this legacy mindset, you could definitely come to that conclusion. And to your point,
which I love is how it doesn't, like in every single application of this Connect ecosystem, it's not solving the problem that is people, it's solving people's problems with the process. And I love how that's all been thought through, like talent. Let's take talent as an example.
I love the talent product because most of us have this immediate visceral reaction that we're going to try and have interviews be these long, arduous AI interviews, right? And
I don't want screening interviews. Please don't assign me to that. It's usually the answer.
Yeah, and the thing that's different here is we said, okay, well, the very first problem is you've got these recruiters who are working their butts off, trying to find people, and it's taking them, they go through 80 candidates to find one offer. That's a typical experience.
That's massive.
And then making that offer often takes 30 days.
Yeah.
Which is insane to think about when it's supposed to be something you're doing to help deal with a problem that you're having right now.
And especially when it's seasonal, peak, everyone's coming in, everyone's applying, but everyone's going to everyone else.
And these poor candidates are trying to get a job, and they're not hearing back forever from this whole process, and it's arduous, and they have to show up at a certain time, and they're going to meet and then the recruiter maybe is having a bad day, and then there's all these other things where we can really fundamentally change the experience to be one where the recruiter sits down, starts with maybe uploading a job description, or they can literally just interact with it and design a set of assessments, which just tell me, can the person do the job? Like, it's not like, can they lift this thing, can they, do they have the ability to type, can they do the things that they need to do to be successful in this role? And then the interview, which is like, stylistically, is this kind of person who's going to do a good job.
Right.
And an example of that might be something like, hey, when you saw someone else at work falling behind before, what did you do? And if the answer is, well, I walked around them.
I ignored them actively, yes.
That's probably not the right behavior you want, right? And so we can use this stuff to understand that. But in your last interview you had, I'm guessing, you probably talked to a lot of people, and they're the people you're going to be working with. You're gaining all this value about knowing how you're going to interact with them. In these types of jobs, you're probably not going to see the recruiter again.
Right.
And you're just trying to figure out, is this a good job fit for me? And the person's trying to figure out, can you do the job really well? And is your attitude going to be a positive attitude to go do that job? And so in these scenarios, bringing human beings into that particular part of the experience actually can be negative. People have preconceived notions, whether it be an accent or other things like that. Zip codes, right? And so we can eliminate all of that from that experience, and then we can present to the recruiter a set of information about the candidate that is not bringing that into it, but instead focusing on what their capabilities are. And by the way, the candidates love this because they can do this process on their own time. And so maybe you like to get up early in the morning.
I'm doing a screener in the middle of the night.
Yeah, me too. That's right. I'm going to be up late.
Sorry.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. And so I'm the same way. And so that's when I would be able to have the time to do it. And guess what? I can do it within the time I have, so I don't have to be, if I'm 15 minutes late, it's not a problem, and there's no recruiter who's going to be 15 minutes late on the other side. And then all that information comes back, and then the recruiter, again, making the decisions, deciding who they're going to offer to with this now set of data that's not bringing the preconceived notions and allowing that recruiter to act so much faster. So now, we were at Amazon, we're far further down than saying a
I was going to say, you guys might have a couple of hiring moments.
But with these tools now, we and the folks using them can get down to under a day to go from
That's
process
incredible.
end to end. And think about the best people who are applying for these jobs, they're going to get an offer quickly.
Yes.
And so you want the opportunity to be you the one to be giving them that offer that they accept. So that's a game changer for them. And the person getting the job wants the job.
Yeah.
They want to close that down. I mean, we think about the stress of getting a job, like think about how much faster that's such a benefit to be able to move faster. And so we're getting great feedback, not just from the recruiters, which we kind of expected, but also from the candidates, we focused really high, really a great deal on that to make sure that was the case, but we were really relieved to see that it was, and folks are really liking that part of it. But that's the story with all this stuff, which is the people, again.
That's what I love.
Anecdotally, it's always interesting. Data's real value, but anecdotes sometimes are more interesting. And literally, there's a woman on the team who I just talked to, and she said, well, I showed my father, he's been a radiologist, he's retired, and I showed him the work we're doing with coding and with all the stuff to take care of the notes and everything within the Amazon Connect Health product. And he's like, he told me he's coming out of retirement because he says, I can go back to being a doctor.
He may also be coming out of retirement because mom wants him out of the house. I'm just going to say that for the record, but we'll say that, we don't know. We don't know, but that could be happening. But what I think is really important here is that I think we have had to, in large enterprises that are most likely doing mass hiring, but mass information ingest, healthcare systems, massive retail environments. The similar issue that we have is because we have so many requirements about what we have to store, what we have to, what we have to check off, it has turned into this paperwork nightmare that no one wakes up in the morning like, oh my God, I cannot wait to do some paperwork. Yes. I hope I get a process today.
Yeah.
No one.
When you think about something like coding, and it's fraught with peril too, it's like so easy to make a mistake, and if you make that mistake because you're in a rush or because you're not able to focus, or God forbid you're focused on the patient, then it just causes problems downstream. Yeah. And this is a place where AI doesn't get bored, it doesn't get distracted, it just helps you do that on your behalf. Yeah. And comes out and makes you a better doctor.
What I thought was also interesting was in regard to supply chain, it's about the decisioning. It's not about process efficiency. It's about, can you make the decision quickly? Yep. And yes, here we're talking about physical supply chain. Clearly, Amazon, who knows a warehouse better than Amazon? I totally get that. But when I hear conversation around decisioning, I do think about how decisioning directly impacts customer experience across the board too. I mean, 63% of CMOs say that they have missed out on a business opportunity because they or their team couldn't make decisions fast enough. And when you think about the fact that AI can actually see all of those disconnected pieces of a knowledge graph and bring all that together like it does with the supply chain solution, now we're talking about decisioning. We're not talking about AI to have more AI.
Yep. People are self-reporting that they aren't prepared for a 2-week challenge in their supply chain, and they have no way to avoid 2-week challenges in their supply chain.
Right.
This is industry data, and the thing that's amazing about it is it's been so hard to just get the data in a place to use it. And this is where the science we've done internally, we've worked so hard to be able to pull that data together and understand it. And then we do, I think, some really cool things where the human being is like, hey, I've got a new product, I'm putting it into my supply chain. What do I need to do? How do I think about doing this? Now, maybe if you are really, really good at your job and a little clairvoyant, you can guess, okay, I know what this demand curve is going to be like.
Yeah.
But with decisions, we actually can take that and we can project that based on similar items that you already have in your supply chain.
I love that.
And we can let you pick the ones you want to compare and say, I don't think that one is like this one. And then we learn as that goes on, and then we make offers and say, make suggestions. Now, say this is happening, now you've got this great start, but then something happens to inject an issue during that process. You're 2 or 3 weeks in and you see something, we can predict and say, hey, this is gonna go wrong. We're seeing you're starting to run out of stock and you've got a problem. You may need to divert some stock from somewhere else. Do you wanna do that? Well, that's a huge win if you say yes. But if you say no, the AI is going to ask you, why did you say no?
Why did you say? See, that is the question. What gets me really fired up about what you guys are doing specifically with this Connect family is once we start literally connecting the connects, and that's kind of what I'm excited to see as enterprises start figuring that out, because yes, you just solved a problem in your supply chain. You now know why you did or why you didn't. How that then impacts the hiring rate that the supply chain is directly going to relate to on did Christmas season actually start in October or did it start in the middle of October? That changes a start date for your mass hiring seasonal event. So I think that it's how people start to literally string all of these pieces of intelligence together. That's when the AWS backbone starts to make so much of a difference.
We have such a passion around learning. I feel like it's certainly something we've had this is afforded, and we get to talk to so many customers who have shared problems that we're taking the stuff we learned ourselves, and then it's like a tenfold acceleration in our understanding because we'll go have these like for like conversations with people, these birds of a feather conversations, and when I think about something like the customer stuff, we're hiring. We've had up to 100,000 peak agents, human beings working, and so you can think of all the challenges, all the learnings there, and then what we do is things like, instead of just saying, well, we're going to try and make them a little bit faster, which obviously has the monetary value, but we're going to try and make them a little more relaxed. And so we'll go and spend time actually building the software, and then we'll test that.
You mean not by putting in here's your 30 seconds to listen to mood music?
Yes.
Because there are things there.
No, how do we get the technology out of
it? It's like, oh my God, the mood music didn't help.
And the folks who are doing these jobs took them because they love helping people, right?
Right.
And then the software in so many situations was fighting them at that. And so we said,
same with healthcare though.
Exactly. And when can we just get this out of the way so this thing becomes a teammate that's helping you? And then you become, and as a human being, I know that when I'm not stressed out, I'm a better person. You can ask my family, right? And they'll tell you. And so the key to this stuff is we do that, but then we'll go measure it. I may have told you the story, but one of the things that we did was we asked people if they would volunteer when we tested new software for them to wear a heart rate monitor. And people said, yes, we'd love to do that. I want to make up a better environment for myself. And so they did it, and we saw a lower heart rate when they did that.
Stop.
And so that it's just an indication of someone being more relaxed. And you can imagine that relaxed person is now doing what? Focusing on the person they're talking to, focusing on the problem. Meanwhile, someone else is over there doing alt-tab all day, going insane, and you can guarantee they're not paying attention to the customer while they sit there trying to get their software to work.
Yeah.
And so human beings being great is really what all this is about. On the talent side, we love that, but on the doctor side, it's so obvious. The decisions, folks who can move quicker and save money. We've seen people literally lower their inventories up to 7% while keeping exact stock out levels.
Ooh.
So you think about that, a 1% gain in supply chain. That's
insane. Millions, billions of dollars.
Yes.
That's huge.
And so it's because we're able to bring to bear this refined science on a set of data, and these folks are dying now at this point to give us the data because they're seeing these kind of results. So these will be kind of game-changing things for folks, but in every case, there's a human being who's getting the benefit of it.
But there's also a new partnership opportunity. Talk to me a little bit about what comes next for the AWS Connect ecosystem.
Yep.
What should people be asking for, and what should people I'm a CIO, I'm a CTO, but I've also brought my marketing and my contact center and my operations team to the table.
Yep.
What should that collective group be asking about this new partnership ecosystem that's going to wrap into Connect?
Yeah, the thing that I've seen consistently and painfully for the folks who are trying to have great outcomes for their end customers has been that they just can't get the data in one place and then act on it. And so we made a huge investment in the last couple of years to bring out customer profiles capabilities that allows you to pull out data from across the silos of the enterprise, bring it into one place. We've got world-class match merge capabilities. So, if there's 2,000 Bob Smiths in your database, you get the 30 of them that are actually one person.
Yep.
So, there's actually going to be a bunch of duplication. Pull those together, match them up, and then make decisions in real time. And in order to do that, we started pulling technologies we had across AWS and Amazon to understand how do we actually do predictive analysis at scale in ways that have been proven in the real world. And so we brought that team into my organization, and now they're focused on helping people make decisions so they can predict. Everyone always talks about proactive, but proactive is like, hey, I'm a chatbot, click on me. That's not proactive. This is truly understanding the customer's needs. And the nice thing about it is, because of the nature we have in this business, and the fact that we are coming from this intent of helping people be successful engaging their customers. I've got 150 internal customers at Amazon alone, never mind the tens of thousands outside of it. I'm greatly empowered that if that causes them to use less Connect because we're being proactive, Andy and Matt are like totally okay with it. They're like, this is great. Just go make a great outcome for customers. And so we're making a huge investment there. And now I'm working with the folks inside of Amazon.com who actually do all the work to try and understand customers better based on the interaction, so that every single touch point of the customer will now improve that customer data within your organization too. And these are investments that just no one else can really make, not just because it'd be expensive or hard, but because they don't have the data and the ability to go do it, and it's not worth it from them from a standpoint. But for us, it's worth it.
But you can do it. And but I think it's also important for your customers to know that this is the time to bring your CMO in on this conversation, right? Because I can take that data and I can apply it into my marketing automation, my campaign planning. I can tie that into what I'm doing in Amazon advertising. I can take that data that I'm getting from that signal about what the customer is doing, how that customer is being segmented, and I can now push that information into my marketing and my creative studio. I am completely creating different assets in Amazon advertising. I am pushing into Prime. I'm going into sponsored stores. That I'm bringing all of that insight together, but I'm also sharing it in non-Amazon properties. I think that tends to be the stumbling block. I think people want to keep everything in the Amazon ecosystem, but that's not what you're doing, and that's not what this data is intended to do. I thought it was great that in the talent demo that I saw, I could immediately see pushing all of this into your HCM solution. So now all of a sudden you know what's happening, not only with your referrals and your candidates, but now with who you hired. You have all of that data flowing into the same place. I can see the same thing happening in a marketing automation tool or a CRM.
Yep. One of the things we've always believed in was partnerships are incredibly important. People have business process they want to maintain. Hopefully it's good business process. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, but we want to get rid of the bad stuff. But let's take these really hard things, make them easy, and then don't build walled gardens. Let people have access to their data, give them the data in the way they can consume it. And now we're seeing people take tons of advantage of that. And that is that's only going to accelerate now, because there's going to be so much pressure with the expectations created by agentic AI.
100%.
That people need to make this stuff ready, and we want to run with them through that doorway to help them get the results they want.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for taking the time. Thanks for watching. We'll see what comes next.